There we go. So we've started recording. All right, I'm going to share my screen and we're going to get the ball rolling. So this is a presentation that the districts has sent us. This is your parent information meeting on our return to school. Safe steps to returning to school, that is. So the district's on track to reopen our schools. The first thing they've done is they've implemented all the health practices and protocols at the school. Paul Revere is in the process of making sure every classroom is prepared to receive your children. We have put new filters in our HVAC systems. We have reduced the number of chairs in every classroom, so they will only accommodate students that are socially distancing. And we've created our walkway on how students are going to transition from point A to point B. What's still in progress is reducing the level of COVID-19. As I think many of the parents understand, we need to get into the red tier before schools can reopen based on the agreement between UTLA and the Los Angeles Unified School District. I don't think we're there yet, but it's hopeful that we'll get there sooner rather than later. And also, school staff, teachers, and everybody are currently in the process of getting vaccinated. Those that are volunteering or choosing to get vaccinated. At this point, it is not mandated that every school employee be vaccinated, but the vaccinations are being provided. This is sort of a checklist that you can find on the district website from Paul Revere. There's a link in your parent information guide. It sort of tells you where we are as a school. This is what you want to see on the right-hand side. You want to see all the green checks as far as the heating systems, as far as the classrooms, as far as the PPE materials here on campus. There are a few things you'll notice that we're still working on at Paul Revere, but before your children access this campus, everything on this checklist will be completed. So let's talk about your responsibility as a parent and what the timeline is. So over the next 8 days, they're going to ask our families to make a selection by using the district selection form. Now, your selection is either going to be, I'd like to return my child to campus to work in a cohort for the remainder of the school year, or I'm going to keep my child at home during virtual, to continue virtual learning. Now, you can find that form on reopening.lausd.net, family selection. There is a link for it in the Return to Campus Family Guide, and we'll also put a link on our school website so you can access it very easily. We're hoping to return to campus sometime in late April. That's the targeted date. Mr. Anici, do you have a specific day? No, not yet, because it's still sort of up in the air. It's based on a couple of factors, one of them being what tier we are in as a county. But the goal is late April. So every family has access to the Return to Campus Family Guide. It is found at reopening.lausd.net/family guide. There's a link to it, I believe, already on our school website. If not, it will be sent out to you in Schoology as well. And it's sort of your steps to getting your child back on campus. It gives you all the information you're going to need to know for returning to campus. But let's speak about March 19th. You have to make a choice as a family, and the district is asking you to do this by March 19th. Once again, that family selection guide, you're going to need to decide on 4 different things. Will your child continue to work online, or are they going to come back on campus for the hybrid learning? Does your child need supervised care on site? Is your child going to participate if they've already qualified in school bus transportation? So let me just focus on that real quickly. Charter students do not qualify for school bus transportation at this time. The only students that qualify for school bus transportation are our magnet students. Now, there are a few exceptions with charter families, but they will be notified by the Los Angeles Unified School District. Those are charter families that are participating in one of the programs, the PWT program, the school choice program. But if you are just a regular charter family that you got in here through the regular charter application process, school bus service by the district is not available to you. You also get to choose your preference on the 2021-2022 school calendar. Now, when you go there, they're going to give you two options. I think I shared some of those options with you earlier in the year, but they want to know what the families, what their preferences are. And also, you're going to let the district know if there are any summer school interests. So those are all the items you're going to find on the family selection guide, which is due March 19th. Now, let me tell you, if you do not fill this form out, you will automatically default to staying online as far as hybrid versus coming back online. So once again, March 19th, you need to let the district know what your selection is. My kid's going to return to Revere and work in a cohort, or I prefer my child to work from home. All right? So that is a hard date, March 19th. Please keep it in mind. Let's talk about what the schedule would look like if your child comes back on campus. So if you've decided, yes, I'm all in, I need my kid to be back on a school campus, this is what your schedule is going to look like. So your Tuesday, Thursday, Monday, Wednesday schedules, classes are going to stay the same. We're not going to adjust your child's math class. We're not going to adjust their history class. Those classes are going to stay the same. But the order of the day is going to change a little bit. You'll notice at the top that there's a transition time from 8:30 to 9. That's to get your child from the front of school, where we're going to be scanning children in, to their advisory class, right? That is a half hour. It's going to be a staggered check-in. Then you'll go to your advisory for morning check-in from 9 to 9:30. And then, your regular day, periods 1, periods 3. And here's something a little different: advisory, then lunch, period 5, 6, and then dismissal at 2:30. All right, so that's what it would look like if you are coming back on campus. This is what your Friday schedule would look like. Remember, our Friday schedules alternate between 135 and 246. Basically the same thing, with a little bit of a different twist, because advisory is now at the end of the day rather than in the middle of the day. If you've decided to keep your child at home, this is what your schedule would look like. Your Monday, actually, through Thursday would basically be school starts at 8:30 for advisory in the morning, then periods 1, 3, 5, 6 or 2, 4, 6, depending on the day. And then your Monday schedule, even though it says Friday, this was given to us by the district. Our schedule is a little different than theirs. Here's what your schedule would be: advisory in the morning, regular schedule, and then end of the day at 1:20 on Friday for these children. All right, and this will all be mailed available to you. I'll be emailing it out later, but this is if I've chosen to keep my child at home. So remember, this is if my child's coming back on campus, and this is if I've chose to keep my child at home. Your academic classes will not change in either format. You will keep your teachers. You will be meeting with the same students virtually that you've met with all year. It's just that your responsibilities, there's no checking in, there's no staggered lunches, none of that. You're just going to remain as you are online at home. So we are preparing our facilities to have your children back. Our plant staff right now is making sure that the classrooms are ready. It's making sure that our main office is prepared to receive you. We have our hand sanitizer stations throughout the campus. When your children come back to school, this is what it would look like: socially distanced, one child at a desk. What I've said before, our HVAC system has been updated with the latest filters. When your child arrives on campus, they will be checked in through the daily pass, daily health check scanning procedure. We will scan them in and take their temperature. And they have to look at the questions like, for those of you that have been getting the testing to see for the COVID virus, you will have gone through these protocols where you have to answer a series of questions, either yes or no. Depending on how you answer those questions would depend whether or not you have access to campus. And plus the daily pass screening option. And this is our daily pass. Everybody needs to generate a QR code to access campus. You can do this on an iPhone. You can print it out at home. You could do it on your iPad and have it rearing and ready to go. But this is what we use to scan you in. We're currently doing that for all administrative and clerical staff that come on our campus each day. In fact, some of those teachers, your children's teachers, are teaching from their classrooms again. We're scanning them in each day. It's a fast, quick process, and it shouldn't be too complicated. Of course, there's going to be a learning curve for the first few days, but after a couple of days, everybody should pretty much get the hang of it. And once again, there'll be a temperature check for everybody who accesses campus. Anybody that has a temperature of over 99.9 degrees would not be permitted on campus, and we would put them in our quarantine area and contact their families to come pick them up for the remainder of the day. Also, face masks are required. Every child needs to wear a face covering to access campus. Once again, this is just the daily health check for all visitors. Now, right now, parent access to campus will be strictly limited. If you're figuring, okay, well, I'll send my kid back to school, I have to pick them up at noon for a dentist appointment, you wouldn't gain access to campus. We would bring your child down to you. But that'll be explained as we get closer and closer to returning to campus. So, what do families do to prepare their child to come back on campus? Well, families need to be getting, or at least the children need to be getting, their weekly COVID-19 test. The district is suggesting that you have a test at least 2 weeks out prior to coming onto campus. And if we're on campus for 4 weeks, your child would need to be tested at least once during those 4 weeks. They need to make sure they wear their masks properly. We are going to be enforcing social distancing, and we will be encouraging proper hygiene with frequent washing of hands using our, wash stations or the disinfectant that we'll have inside the teacher classrooms. Each classroom will be fitted with sanitizing materials, either wipes or hand sanitizer that the children can use periodically throughout the day. So don't forget, schedule your appointment. It's a free COVID-19 test. Probably once we announce that final date, like, hey, we're coming back on campus April 19th, schedule your appointment. You can go through the Daily Pass, lausd.net. It's pretty simple and it's pretty easy. In fact, I just had my test again this morning. I do it weekly at Palms Middle School. I know that Brentwood Elementary School is a testing site. Testing sites are located throughout the city. So stay connected with us. Concerns and questions. Well, you can go to paulreverems.com. We'll have a lot of these links set up for you. So you can do your parent preference. You can take a look at that parent guide to returning to campus. Don't forget, you can always reach us at 310-917-4800 for current questions. And we can also be contacted through Schoology. You can hit me up. You can hit Mr. Koretz up, Ms. Mabashoff. Any of our administrative staff will be happy to support you. Don't forget, I'm the principal, Tom Iannucci. I'm going to say thank you. And in my portion of the presentation, And then we're going to open it up for questions and answers. And I see we got tons of questions. Guys, you can just unmute yourself. You can ask me some of them, and I will be happy to respond, or you can respond directly to them. So fire away. Any questions you want to read to me, Alana?
I'm going through them right now. We've got a bunch of questions, some of which we may not have the answers to yet. But a lot of the questions are regarding how are the students going to be learning during the school day?
Great question. So during the school day, our students will remain with their cohort. So it's Zoom in a room. This essentially is the easiest way to explain it to you. Your students are going to remain with their advisory teacher. Classes aren't going to change. So if your advisory teacher is Mr. Roy, and you decide to send your child to school, your child will, when they arrive on campus, go to Mr. Roy's classroom. They are going to remain with Mr. Roy the whole day. They're going to Zoom from a room. Yeah, Mr. Iannucci, but Mr. Roy's not my child's English teacher. Well, your child will continue to take their English class Zooming in Mr. Roy's room. Well, what's Mr. Roy going to be doing? Mr. Roy's going to be teaching his classes. So Mr. Roy will be in his class, teaching his classes virtually, and your children will be in Mr. Roy's class, taking their classes virtually.
So another question was, if that's the case, how will PE work? Are kids going to be doing, jumping jacks in class, or how will that work?
I will tell you that is yet to be decided. Currently, we were initially under the impression that it could be one way, but then yesterday we found out it's not going to be that way. So for things like choir, PE, band, orchestra, we are working on that with the district. We have not been given any guidance on that yet, but hopefully by the time April 19th rolls around, we'll have those answers. But currently, I'm sorry, I don't have them for you. Use your imagination. We'll have kids in the back of the room doing jumping jacks, another kid playing the piccolo in the corner. That's the best I got for you. Sorry.
How will lunch be handled?
That's a really good question. So students have to remain with their cohort when they eat meals. So we'll have to designate areas for, like, I'll pick on Mr. Roy today. So Mr. Roy's cohort will have a designated area where they eat lunch. They are not allowed to interact with other cohorts because we're trying to keep everybody socially distanced, meaning that we don't want to break the cohort. So we would not allow your child from Mr. Roy's cohort to go over to Ms. Del Cambri's cohort and hang out with them during lunch. We're going to follow strict district protocols on that, and that's keeping the children separated within their little bubble for the entire school day.
Is there after school care, and how will that work?
So the district is going to be providing, as far as I know, after school care through Beyond the Bell. I don't have specifics on that. I don't know how Beyond the Bell is going to be running their schedule, but I do know there will be extended care on our campus provided by Beyond the Bell. Will children be able to leave their desks at all during the day? Yes. So something new with the side agreement is teachers are going to be allowed to take their students outside for brief, fresh air breaks. So during maybe a passing period, like in between periods 1 and 3, the teacher has, the right, should the teacher decide to take kids outside, let them get a little fresh air, stretch their legs, and so on and so forth.
How large is the cohort?
Between 14 and 17 students, depending on how many students within each advisory respond that they'll be coming back to school.
Okay, just sifting through some of the ones that are not.
Yeah, hey, Chantel and Justin, if you just want to answer the ones in the chat and the Q&A, that's fine. I did see one about main reason for sending my child back to school would be for live instruction, not to have them. I'm sorry, that's the deal that UTLA and the Los Angeles Unified School District came with. I mean, to be honest with you, everybody, this deal works better with an elementary school because the children stay with that one teacher all day long. Our 6th grade classes, it's probably going to be a little bit more, conducive for. But for our 7th and 8th grade students, it really is, you're sitting in a classroom with a teacher who may or may not be your teacher, and then continuing to learn online from your current teachers. Just to repeat, class schedules will not be changed.
There seem to be a lot of questions about how are the children, how will the teacher teach in the classroom while.
Oh, so the kids, so we've received headphones, right? And so every child's going to have a headphone that allegedly, based on the manufacturer, blocks out noises, right? So the kids will be able to focus using these headphones on what's going on in front of them. They will be, connected to their iPad, and they'll be, focusing on their class studies. The teacher themselves will be teaching their class in front. It's not a perfect world, right? And this is probably, if I was, if I had my little magic wand and I could make things the way Tom Iannucci wants them, I might have thought of things and structured it a little differently. But this is what we've been given to operate within. And so, because I am an employee of LA Unified, I have to follow their policies and procedures. And that's what they've decided that we're going to do. Zoom in a room. Your kid's going to come to school. He's going to go to that advisory teacher's classroom. They're going to sit down. They're going to take their lessons in that classroom, regardless of whether the advisory teacher is their teacher or not.
Do we have any information about 8th grade culmination or any?
More information on 8th grade culmination to come. A lot of that will be based on what tier we're in and what the county will allow us to do. As you can see, society's opening up more and more and more. So use your imagination, man. Come June 11th, what we're thinking of right now could look vastly different. So we were hoping for some sort of an in-person activity. Maybe not everybody all at once, but at least something along those lines. But I'd rather take questions about students returning to campus.
Is there, some are asking what percentage of teachers have been vaccinated yet, and will we know if their specific teacher will be returning to class? Right.
So right now, all teachers are mandated to return, right? Based on the agreement with UTLA and the district, we're all back on campus. The only people that would have the option of not returning to campus would be educators that have pre-existing health conditions and can get clearance from a medical professional. So, I can't share any of that information with you because that's all protected information. I can't tell you who was vaccinated and who wasn't. I can't tell you, if anything about a teacher's health history or personal information, but I can tell you that vaccinations have been offered to every LA Unified employee, and every LA Unified employee has been informed that they will be returning to campus at some point this year when campuses reopen.
Thank you.
Yeah, so some parents said, so the only difference with what's going on with our kids is that they're just not at home. I guess that's a simple way of putting it. They're still in a classroom Zooming, right? But they're Zooming from the classroom, not from their bedroom. But, let's talk about, what are the benefits of sending my kid back? Routine. Hey, we're coming back at some point, right? It's going to be August, or it's going to be, early August or late August. Let's get our kids up in the morning again. Let's get them out of their pajamas. Let's get them showered, brushing their teeth. Let's get them panicking that they're going to be late to school again, right? Let's get them out in the fresh air. Let's get them on campus. Let's get them used to a routine that I got to be up at 6:30. I got to be out the door at 7:25. I got to be in front of Revere at 8. I've got to be at my first period class at 8:15. Let's start building that again. Our 6th graders don't even know what this campus looks like. Get them back here. Let them know where the X building is compared to the B building. Let them be able to see what the inside of a Revere classroom looks like. Let them actually see the people that are in their English class in person rather than somebody on a screen. And yeah, okay, we're still Zooming. but they're not always Zooming, right? They're going to be in a classroom with 13 other kids, and kids are kids, and they need that. Don't, I've been getting emails from parents, oh, my kid's so depressed, they're isolated. Unisolate them, get them out. And right, it's in a room, I'm Zooming, but there are other opportunities, maybe not necessarily close enough to share each other's, droplets, but opportunities to see other kids on our campus, So there's my soap opera and there's my pitch. Any other questions?
So
Go ahead, Alana.
What if someone starts to do the hybrid program, but then wants to change their mind and learn from home?
Great question.
And they switch back and forth.
Great question. So you have an opt-out in 2 weeks. So if you start and 2 weeks later, you'll have an opportunity to opt out. My understanding right now, though, you do not have an opportunity to opt in. It's only opting out. So you choose to send your child back to school. About a week in, your child comes home and just says, this is not working for me. And you say, yeah, you're right. There's, a month left in school. Let's go back to virtual. At the 2-week mark, your child would be allowed to transition back to online virtual learning. If you choose online virtual learning, you've chose it for the rest of the school year. There is no opting in.
What about sports teams? I know that's not dated. Has there been any information about sports teams returning?
Sports teams, I have no answers for you. I know high schools are starting to work out. Middle schools has not been addressed. Somebody wrote a question in the chat about the time for instruction being different. Actually, the time online and on campus are the same for instruction. The only difference is transitioning time from the front of school to their classroom for lunch and for leaving. But online instruction compared to on-campus instruction is still the same amount of instructional minutes. That has not changed.
Advisory will be different times, though.
Right. But instructional, no, their core classes haven't changed. Thank you for clarifying, Justin. So a lot of questions about what happens if a child shows up and they are running a fever, or what happens if we find out that one of the children in my child's cohort tested positive for COVID. Well, it's pretty simple, and it's not pretty simple. If your child shows up and they're running a fever, we won't allow them admittance on campus. There's an area on campus that we've selected, which is safe, which will be supervised, that they will be housed, for use of a better word, until somebody can come pick them up. If we find out that little Tommy Iannucci was on campus Monday and Tuesday, and Wednesday we get notified that Tommy tested positive for COVID-19, Tommy's whole cohort would be notified, and they would not be permitted on campus for the designated period for people needed to see if they test positive for the virus. Off the top of my head, I think that's still 14 days, right? And that's, we would be just following all CDC guidelines and protocols.
What about special education students? How will they be supported?
The same as they would be any other way when they're on campus. Our paraprofessionals will be returning to campus. The private school or the private agency BIIs will also be returning to campus. Speech therapists, everybody will be returning for in-person services. And your children, unless they have a medical condition that requires them not to wear a mask, right, would follow the same rules and regulations that everybody else, wearing a mask, social distancing, and so on and so forth.
Will 6th grade look any different than 7th and 8th grade?
Well, 6th grade already looks different than 7th and 8th grade because they only have 2 core teachers. So your 6th grade child is going to be with one of their core teachers. So if, let's say, Aquilli and Barbieri, so your 6th grader will be with Miss Barbieri all day, or your 6th grader will be with Mr. Aquilli all day, but their schedules will not change.
And days a week. So a student that opts in to learn from campus will be going Monday through Friday?
No, it's our same schedule, right? So you're either going to be Monday, Wednesday, or you'll be Tuesday, Thursday. So let's just go by your advisory. So it'd be based on your advisory H or L, I think is what we still call our advisories. So one advisory H and the other advisory L. 17. So our square footage of our classrooms is 900 square feet. Based on social distancing, 6 feet parameters, we've measured it out. We can fit 17 students and a teacher in that advisory classroom. So if all 34 students in Ms. Del Cambry's advisory decide to come back on campus, 17 would come one day and 17 would come the other day.
Mm-hmm.
Well, what happens if we have 40 kids in our advisory? Well, then there may have to be some adjustments to that advisory where we might have to move a few students into another advisory that has a smaller amount. Mr. Iannucci, what happens if only 4 kids in my advisory choose to come back, right? Well, that'd be something that we would address. Might an advisory class change? Yeah, maybe, but your core academic teachers will not change.
Bus protocols for those students that will be taking the bus to campus. Do we know what those protocols are yet?
100%. So bus ridership would be limited. Students would be sitting at one to a seat and alternating sides. So you would have one student by the window and then another student on the aisle on separate seats. So they're not in front or behind each other. There would definitely be a 6-foot space between each student. So for the smaller buses, there may be an empty seat in between the students. All students will have to go through a temperature check before they get on the bus. And then when students are getting off the bus, transitioning off, we'd be reading their QR codes.
Also, if people could put their questions in the Q&A, when we respond to the chat, it doesn't specifically go to the question that's asked, and it's confusing for people to see the answers. So if you could put all the questions in the Q&A.
Thank you, Justin. Yes, we are talking about school twice per week and 3 times a week every other week. So remember, our Fridays are alternating Fridays, like one Friday periods 1, 3, 5 meet, and then the next Friday periods 2, 4, 6 meet. That would be the same way on our campus. So if you're in cohort A, right, for use of a better word, you're at school this week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. The following week, you'd be only at school Monday, Wednesday. And the other cohort that was there Tuesday and Thursday would be there Tuesday, Thursday, Friday. So 1 week, 3 days, 1 week, 2 days.
And students bring their own devices to learn from.
I believe that's fine, right? If you've got a laptop.
I talked to Mr. Shibata this morning. He said that kids can bring, as of right now, kids can bring their own devices if they want. Of course, school's not going to be responsible for them. Right. But if they don't have their own device, the iPads are perfectly capable, and there should be Wi-Fi for everyone on campus.
Yeah. Will Fridays be shorter? We'll take a look at the schedule that will be posted in your parent guide. That'll answer it. But traditionally, Fridays are a little shorter. And I don't have the schedule memorized, so I'm sorry if I didn't answer that question well enough. Should every child be at home on Fridays? No in-person class on Fridays? No, well, it's alternating, right? So one Friday your child will be on campus and the next Friday they won't. So just try to keep in mind, Fridays are that flippy-floppy schedule. Think about today. Is your child synchronous or is your child asynchronous today? And that would give you an answer to that question. So there are a lot of unknowns right now that we're still working out. But, I think bottom line, what you should take away from our little meeting today is that your children do have the right to come back on campus. They will be in a classroom for the full day with one teacher supervising them while they Zoom through their regular schedule. Anything else, Alana, that you saw?
I just keep scrolling. There's a lot of repeat questions that I think we already got to. But a big question is like socialization. How will my child socialize while on campus?
That's going to be our challenge as adults, is making sure the kids socialize appropriately, meaning that they'll be able to socialize within their cohort, right? Socially distanced though. We don't want people, hugging and slobbering all over each other. Right? I mean, so really their social group is going to become that advisory for the 4 weeks or the 5 weeks we're back on campus. Will they have an opportunity to wander campus and visit their friends and stuff like that? No, unfortunately, no. We're really going to follow how the district has set up these parameters. So there will be different eating areas for everybody. There'll be a staggered departure and a staggered access to campus. So what does that look like right now? Well, maybe sixth graders will start out at 8. Seventh graders, your time is 8:15, and eighth graders, your time is 8:25. We haven't really worked that out yet. A lot of that will depend on how many of our families choose to come back. Will my kids have to stand in line to get onto campus? Yeah, because we've got to scan in every single child. And I'm going to tell you, the first few days will probably take us much longer than it will later on. There will be opportunities to socialize, but just not how you remember them and not how your child remembers them.
And there are lots of questions just about the logistics of how it'll work with the teacher teaching and the students learning. Won't there be distractions and noise?
Of course. Right? They're middle school students. There are going to be distractions. There are going to be issues, right? For the teacher, for the child, and we're going to do the best we can. We can do anything for a month, 5 weeks, and we're going to learn a lot, which will make it easier, right? And make it less stress-free, or more stress-free when we return in August. Because folks, we're coming back. We've been gone for a year. Do you realize that this Saturday is the 1-year anniversary that we shut our school system down? It's a year. So people have to relearn things. Our teachers have to relearn things, and our kids have to relearn things. This is a great way to do it. Is it my ideal scenario? No, but it's an opportunity for those families, those of you that have been asking and pleading to get your child back on campus, to get them back on campus.
I'd just like to throw out, we could feel the frustration, right? And the questions coming through, and we want you to know we're equally frustrated. If, we are kind of set in how we have to do things. We have to follow LAUSD guidelines, and we only can do things that will fit their criteria. We realize that in an ideal situation, we would, we'd want to do things the Revere way. However, this is what we have to do. And as a staff, we're going to try and do the best that we can in order to make it as welcoming and comfortable for your children. This is not what we imagined a year ago, but this is the situation we're in, and we're just trying to do the best. So please bear with us and understand the decisions we're making on site are all they all have to fit through what the district's telling us to do. Right. And keep that in mind, please. We need to work together. We have to come together as a community to make this as best possible for the kids. So we do appreciate your support. We feel the frustration, and know that we feel like we are equally frustrated.
There's nobody more frustrated right now than our PE and music department, right? And but they're taking a deep breath, and they're just figuring out how to work around it. And we've got brilliant minds working on this, right? This administrative staff you see sitting in front of you. I'm not talking about myself, but I'm talking about Dr. Anthony, Ms. Mabashop, and Mr. Koretz, and Mr. Shibata and Mr. Evans, who aren't with us this morning, are the sharpest, smartest people I've ever dealt with or worked with. And we're going to figure it out. And we're going to make it as painless for your family as possible. And if you choose to send your child back on this campus, we're going to try to make their experience as positive as it can be within the parameters we've been given by the district. So just know that. Ms. Mabashop?
Yeah, if a child is tested positive within 90 days, does that, and the 90 days have not yet passed, does he need to get tested again? How does it work? If someone does test positive, what are the protocols there?
Right, if you test positive, well, obviously the child's not coming back to school, and we'll notify everybody within the cohort. If your child had tested positive and it's within that 90-day window, LAUSD will not test anybody within 90 days of testing positive. We do have, people throughout the city that are testing positive on a daily basis. But you can get tested at alternate sites. It's just LAUSD will not test you if you have tested positive within 90 days of you wanting to be tested again. You'd have to go maybe through your family physician, a clinic, someplace else, but unfortunately not LAUSD. And once again, if anybody tests positive, teacher, student, paraprofessional, within a cohort, those individuals are notified immediately. The cohort is removed from the campus, and we do our contact tracing just to make sure that, anybody who may have come in contact with those individuals is notified, and also, take the proper safety precautions they need to take to make sure themselves and their family are safe.
For those students who have never been on campus before, like the sixth graders, will there be any kind of orientation or anything familiarizing them with their?
Nothing scheduled at this point. We do have some ideas, and please keep your ear to the ground and your eyes to the horizon for those coming at you. We understand our sixth graders that, like I said, don't know X building from B building, and there's going to be a learning curve, and we're going to try to make it as painless as possible for you and for your child. But just know that parents will not have access to campus as you did traditionally, meaning that the west driveway will be closed. It will not be used for pickup and drop off at all. The only people allowed to access our campus will be your staff, your children, our school buses, and this is to keep our school as safe as possible and make sure we're not bringing things in from the outside that don't need to be brought in from the outside. And so all drop off and pickup is going to be taking place out in front of school. And we'll give you more details about that as the time goes on.
Just, protocols as far as windows being open, doors being open, ventilation.
Yep.
Is that happening?
It's all happening. The systems run 24/7. Like I said, they've been out and they've refurbished, I guess is the easy way to say it, put new filters in it and all that. And they have a shelf life, those filters, and so they're replacing the filters that need to be replaced. Great question about books. I'm not sure how books are going to work. If your child needs it, bring a book to class because the teacher is using the book. Then, of course, there would be a backpack and your child would have to schlep the book to school for those activities. Thank you for all the kind words that are in the chat. I do appreciate them. Right back at you. We appreciate your patience and your understanding and your willingness to work with the school.
Thank you. Phones, so children will have their phones on campus.
100%. Yep. But remind your child that the rules for the phones are still the rules for the phones, right? When your child enters campus, the phone needs to be silenced and put away. And then when school's over, they can take them out and unsilence them again. But we'll go through a refresher course, and of course, there'll be a little leeway, a little get to know you being back at school time. So don't feel that, we're going to be confiscating phones on the first day of school.
So will children be home on Fridays?
Alternating. So once again, children will be home on alternating Fridays. Your schedule, will depend on which advisory you were in, H or L, I think is what we still call our advisories. Is that right, guys?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I forget.
What's the earliest a child can be dropped off and what's the latest they can be picked up?
Well, I'm not sure about latest. It depends on Beyond the Bell, but I know previously, pre-COVID, our Beyond the Bell program ran until 6 p.m. is my recollection. It's been a year. In the morning, pre-COVID, people were dropping their kids off at 6:30 in the morning. Just know that campus does not start, right, until 8 a.m. So I'm going to say at this point, 8 a.m. is the earliest that any child can be dropped off at campus, unless Beyond the Bell is doing a early morning program. But but that's all information that has not been shared with me.
Will siblings be prioritized on campus at the same time?
We'll do the best we can to accommodate everybody.
Can students go to the restroom on their own when they need
Oh yeah, we don't want to go to the restroom with your kid. But just know the restrooms are going to be supervised and sanitized on an hourly basis. It doesn't mean when I say supervised, there's going to be somebody standing in the restroom observing, but we need to make sure the restrooms are clean. We need to make sure that the students are following the proper protocols in the restroom, meaning that every other sink, every other stall. But yes, of course, children will be permitted to go use the restroom when needed.
a lot of these have been answered already.
Yeah, we will have, we will have our nurse on campus. We will have, all the support of the school district as far as sanitizing, the campus. At the end of each day, our plant staff is required. I don't know if you've seen any of the superintendent's little videos, but they'll be going through the classrooms and spraying them down with that disinfectant. Portions of our campus are going to be cleaned hourly. Tables your children eat on will be cleaned hourly. After every meal, students will have to social distance at the table. So it's not like sitting directly across from each other, but, they sort of have to stagger their seating arrangements. We're going to try to keep everybody as safe as possible and, follow whatever rules and regulations are given to us by the CDC and the district. So we're going to go for about 5 more minutes.
Okay.
This is recorded, so if you really felt this was a great presentation, you can sit back and watch it again tonight with popcorn and a beverage of your choice. So anything else you see, Alana?
I'm still got a lot of repeat questions. No, the farm will not. How will the farm?
No, I'm sorry, guys. Farm won't be open. Now, Ms. Robertson is one of our teachers, and her classroom is up at the farm. So students are going to have to go to her classroom for her advisory. But as far as lunchtime, kids going out and being able to interact with the animals, unfortunately, that will not be happening.
Okay. And then just so kids bring their own food to school?
Here, great question. All our water fountains are going to be turned off. The district has provided us with bottled water for your children for when they're thirsty. But yes, they can bring their own food to school. They're not to share their food with anybody. And yes, they can bring their own water container. Might be a good idea, considering that the water will be turned off. Cafeteria will be serving food, as far as I know, but the food will be prepackaged.
Okay.
Will we have this information for Beyond the Bell before March 19th? I'm hoping to have all the Beyond the Bell information within the next 10 days.
If a child has been exposed to someone who has COVID, they may not have it, but what is the protocol there?
Whatever the CDC and the district says. And I believe if anybody's been exposed to somebody with COVID, they're supposed to isolate. I do not believe they would be permitted access back on the campus.
I think, is that one of the questions in the entry? I think it's one of the questions on our, yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, we just don't know. A lot of questions are, will we be back to normal in the fall? When exactly are we returning? We don't have the
right.
answer.
You know what? And let's go back to doing that parent survey. That's one of the things you get to give your input on. In that parent survey that I talked about earlier in the presentation, one of the things that you get to, decide is what is the best return time for our students. And they're going to give you a couple of schedules and you'll be able to choose that. So, please take the time, fill out that survey and let us know, number one, is your child coming back? And number two, what's your preference on a couple of those other items? People have been asking questions about public transportation. I have been in contact with the Big Blue Bus. When we have a set date for us reopening, they will resume the 14th, which drops off right in front of our campus. And I have reached out to Metro a few times. They haven't gotten back to me yet. My understanding is that Metro will start running that afternoon bus again once our school starts. So those of you families that are relying on public transportation, the Big Blue Bus and the Metro Bus, those services should be provided to us again when we reopen.
There were a couple of questions regarding the daily app question, it's security. How is my child's information being stored? I don't know that we have that information.
No, I really don't. That'd be a great question for you to reach out to our local district's operations office. Mr. Booker, just like book with an ER at the end, is our operations coordinator. I believe you can find his email on the local district website. Please reach out to him and ask him those types of questions. He would be the best source for that.
Questions, do we have more freedom because we're a charter school?
Not in this case, no.
Okay, and if a child brings in his or her own laptop, how do they know if the earbuds are going to fit into the laptop? I mean,
you're right. We don't know. Once we get the earbuds, that'd be something that we can look into.
Okay, no lockers are going to be used.
No lockers, none.
Okay. And again, questions about testing. How often do students need to get tested?
And once every 2 weeks. So 2 weeks prior, at least a minimum of 2 weeks prior to coming back. And then if we're back for like 4 weeks, 2 weeks later, get tested again. Yeah.
And is Revere offering testing?
No, we are not. But Brentwood Science Magnet is currently a testing site. That's the only one I know in this area, other than Palms Middle School.
Mr. Shabata said that the earbuds provided by the district are compatible with iPads. And if your child decides to bring their own device, they can bring their own set of earbuds that fit their device.
Okay. Thank you. And then, so the big blue bus is also same thing with the Metro. Those will most likely be working.
My understanding, Metro and Blue Bus will be running. We just have to give them a set date and they'll give us their new schedule. Yeah.
Okay.
So somebody asked, if we select hybrid but decide to do online before March 19th, how do we switch our response? I believe you can change your response every 2 weeks. So if you decide today that you want to do hybrid, but then you decide you want to do online, I believe there'll be an opportunity to opt out before we come back. And vice versa as far as opting in. That's my understanding.
Is there anything regarding carpooling? How will drop off and pick up work with carpooling?
Everything's done through the Horseshoe Driveway or along Allenford and Brinkley. I'm sure the Brinkley neighbors and the Allenford neighbors are going to be overjoyed that we're back. I feel sorry for the people that moved into the neighborhood during COVID-19. They have no idea what it's like to have Paul Revere as their neighbor.
That's true.
I just want to add, I see that a few people are getting upset or feel that we're disregarding any questions. There's, as you can see, there's over 300 questions in the Q&A. We're trying to get to them as quickly as we can and as efficiently as we can. If your question is not answered, we will get to it. If we don't know the answer, our response is going to be, we don't know at this time.
Right.
But please be patient. We are doing the best we can. If your question for some reason isn't answered, feel free to email one of us after, right? Just 100%. To make sure that we hear from you.
Yeah, reach out to me through Schoology. I'll do the best to answer all your questions. So there's a question real quickly about teachers and school staff. How many have been vaccinated? Will all of them be vaccinated? It's information I can't share with you. Just know that the vaccination has been offered to all LAUSD employees. And currently it is up to the employee whether or not they get vaccinated. It's still an individual's choice. But everybody's been offered the vaccination. I'd be happy to share with you, I am done with my vaccinations. I've had 2 shots. And I know that many of our staff have had their initial shot, if not their second shot. So just know that it's being offered to us. Those of us that choose to take advantage of it, will take advantage of it. Yeah, we're doing the best we can in answering your questions.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of questions about hybrid and opting out, going back and forth.
Yeah, there'll be more information about the opting out and opting in Just know that you want to make a decision before the 19th. Otherwise, you're going to be online. And it may be more difficult to opt in than it is to opt out, right? So on the 19th, the portal will close, and that'll be, we'll be receiving a list of all the families that opted in, and that's how we will structure our cohorts. Based on the information we've been given, families that have opted in, that's how we'll structure our cohorts in your children's advisory.
And there's still some confusion about what the day's going to look like in the classroom. It's just your advisory teacher will be there teaching his or her regular classes virtually. Your children will be sitting 6 feet apart in the classroom, also learning virtually the same way they would have been learning at home, except they're going to be learning in the classroom. But that will remain the same. They'll still be sitting in front of a computer learning via Zoom, and the teacher will be teaching via Zoom.
Right. I mean, theoretically, you could have 14 children in an advisory taking 14 different classes at one time, and the teacher teaching a completely different class than what the students are learning. I mean, look at it this way. Theoretically, I could be an 8th grade math teacher with a 7th grade advisory, and I might not have any of those children in my class. Hey, Mr. Shibata joined us. Hello, Mr. Shibata. Good to see you.
Bus schedules, are drop-off and pickup locations still the same as they were before?
Say that again.
Regarding bus transportation for those students in Magnet and PWT, will the drop-off and pickup locations and times, will those still be the same? My guess is those are going to be altered a little bit depending upon who's returning and who's not, and information will be forthcoming in that area.
So someone asked if teachers can take their classes outside. We're still waiting to get more guidance from the district, but understand that that teacher may not necessarily be instructing the group of students they're with. So if it's just going outside just for fresh air or a different environment, that's a possibility, but it's not like they can have a full lesson in whatever area outside.
There is written in to the agreement that teachers may take their students out for a fresh air break, right? But as far as teaching in an open door area, I mean, theoretically, that's possible, but will that happen? I can't tell you at this time. So somebody said they'll be testing on school sites, that the Venice Cosa, when they mentioned that. That was mentioned in our last meeting, but because it hasn't been given to me as, yes, this is happening, I'm just going by the fact that the district does have testing sites and that those testing sites are available to you. But I have not been notified that there will be a testing site on Revere's campus. So I don't want to open that door.
And testing, only students that plan on coming onto campus need to be tested every 2 weeks.
That is correct. And it's not every 2 weeks. It's 2 weeks prior to returning to campus and then 2 weeks after returning to campus. So
thank you.
That's sort of where it is. And how many kids are in a classroom? The maximum we're allowed based on CDC rules and regulations is 17 for a 900 square foot classroom. Some classrooms are a little larger, some are a little smaller, but the average class would probably be 17. The smallest would be 14.
At this time, we do not have any information about summer school. A bunch of questions are regarding summer school. As soon as we have information, we will send that out when we get it.
Yes, your advisory teacher will not change unless there's a reason it has to change. Currently, all advisory teachers will remain as your child's advisory teacher. So if your child's advisory teacher was Ms. Johnston, then it'll still be Ms. Johnston if she returns to campus.
More questions about the opting in and opting out. So I think you said that it'll be easier to opt out, but there's no guarantee you'd be able to opt in.
Right, 2 weeks is when you would be able to opt out. So if you decided to send your child to school and a weekend you decide that, no, this isn't working for us, at the 2 week mark, you'd be able to opt out.
but if they wanted to opt back in, is that possible?
Don't have that information. And
Yeah.
you email me that. I will email it to my director and hopefully I'll have that information. Earlier, geez, back a million years ago in another lifetime, when we were initially talking about this, there was no option to opt in. There was only an option to opt out, but there was no option to opt in until the end of the semester. That, as far as I know, has not changed. We're not going to be starting a new semester anytime soon. So I would say no opting in, but yes to opting out.
And there's no switching. If your child is an H, they can't switch to L and vice versa.
No, we're going to not, the schedule will be designed by us. That may happen organically, right? If your L advisory has too many students returning and we can't, and your classroom is too small, right? If your classroom can only fit a cohort of 12 students and 14 want to, come back on campus, we may have to move 2 students to the H, right? Advisory. Beyond the Bell is a free, no fee program provided by LA Unified.
Just to clarify, there's no requests though. You can't choose different. Yeah. You get what you get and you don't get upset.
Right. And then Beyond the Bell, when they have the information for signing up for the after school care, because I'm going to assume that there are going to be rules and regulations around that program, we will get them out to you. As soon as Beyond the Bell gives us what their program will look like, you'll be the first to know.
And again, if you have more than one child, you can, we'll make every effort to make sure that
we're going to do the best we can. We're making no promises though, right? Theoretically, we could have 1,900 families decide to return to Revere, right? So we might not be able to accommodate anybody, but we'll try to accommodate everybody, if that makes sense. So we got about 10 after. I know the bazillion more questions. What do you guys, is everybody still good for 5 more minutes or does people have to jump on other Zooms? You guys good? Good. All right, let's keep going. Any more questions from anybody?
mental health services, will there be any?
So our PSW and our counselors will be on campus. Of course, we're always here to support your child for whatever their needs are. But yes, we will have all the services on campus that we traditionally have. So psychological social worker, our counselors, our school psychologists, our deans, everybody.
Yeah, again, questions, how will we know about teachers? Will my teacher be vaccinated?
Can't share any of that information with you. That's private. HIPAA rules, you know. I can tell you about my health history, but I couldn't tell you about Ms. Mavashov's or Mr. Koretz. So Christina Crow said, can you state again what consistent days? So right, it's either going to be Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday, and every other Friday. It just depends on which group you're in. And when we know what families are coming back, you will get your schedule if it's Monday, Wednesday, or Tuesday, Thursday. It's so early in the game right now. We don't even have a day that we're going to be allowed to return to campus. So this is just an initial, hey guys, this will help you make your decision on whether to opt in or opt out.
I think we answered.
No, you know what? So somebody said if regular school starts at 8, will remote learning start at 8? Regular school doesn't start until 9. Accessing campus starts at 8. And then the on-campus check-in, advisory, whatever you want to call it, starts at 8:30, right? Online virtual kids advisory will start at 8:30, but classes do not begin until 9 o'clock. So regular school starts, classes, advisory, 8:30, instruction, 9 o'clock, currently with the schedule that was given to us by the district. And I'll post a link to that presentation on our, or I'll send it out to you in Schoology so you can go through it again. and take a look at the schedules which the district has given us. We may tweak the schedules a little bit to be more reviewer friendly, but essentially the time period, 8 o'clock in the morning until 3 o'clock in the afternoon, I believe, for online, in person. And it's a little different for the online kids. I think 2 o'clock.
Again, we don't have a start date.
No.
Questions about we do not know when we will be back on campus.
Late April is my guess. Late April, and that's still a guess. If a nice firm date makes you feel better, April 19th. Throw that one out for a little while, and that may change.
We don't yet know about parent-sponsored buses.
You know, that's a great question for Ms. Vogel and those in that organization. Please reach out to her.
What was the question?
The parent-sponsored buses, Justin. Do you know anything about that?
Yeah. So for the remainder of this school year, there will not be parent chartered buses. They are still looking to have them for the 2021-22 school year.
Thank you, Justin. So now we know. All right, guys and gals, I'm going to say goodbye, and I'm going to end our meeting. Please, if your question was not answered in the hour and 10 minutes that we met with you, please reach out to us through Schoology. Number 2, I will post the presentation through Schoology. I'll send it out to, or actually we'll post it on the website. That's probably a lot easier. So you can always check the website. You can check the website for the parent guide. You can check the website for the form that you fill out and get decide whether you're going to opt in and opt out. And you will be able to see the different schedules that are being offered for on-campus instruction compared to off-campus instruction. But if you go away with anything today, please go away with this. If your child chooses to come back on campus, it will be Zoom in a room. It will be in a classroom for the entire day with one teacher while they go through their daily schedule virtually. And now I think that's the most important thing you should know about when deciding you're going to send your child back to school or not. All right. Thank you, everybody. You know, we love you. We miss you. And we just hope to have everybody back on campus normally beginning of next year. All right. I'm going to end the meeting, everyone. Thank you, Ms. Mabashah, Dr. Anthony, Mr. Koretz, as always, and Mr. Shibata, even though I don't see your smiling face, thank you as well. Goodbye, everyone.